Right, well, we begin with breaking news because President Donald Trump says the US has struck Iran's Karaj Island, the country's main oil export hub. The island is located off Iran's southwest coast. It's the export terminal for 90% of Iran's oil shipments. US President Donald Trump announced the attack on social media, and in a message posted to his Truth Social platform, he wrote, "Moments ago, at my direction, the United States Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Karaj Island. Our weapons are the most powerful and sophisticated that the world has ever known, but for reasons of decency, I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision." Right, well, we have correspondents following all the latest developments from Beirut, Washington, D.C., Tehran, Doha and Amman. So let's begin now in Tehran, in Iran, with Mohammed Val. I mean, quite a big threat there, saying biggest in the history of the Middle East. Have we actually heard anything from the Iranians to confirm this? And how significant is this island to Iran?
Well, until now, we don't have any official comment on what happened, on what Donald Trump has announced. But we know that the Iranians have been speaking about this possibility, not mentioning Karaj Island by name, but the Parliament Speaker, Mohammad Baqir Ghalibaf, just recently, maybe maybe yesterday, wrote on Twitter, on X, any aggression against Iranian islands will shatter all restraint. We will abandon all restraint and make the Persian Gulf run with blood of invaders, with the blood of invaders. The blood of American soldiers is Trump's personal responsibility. So there was like a kind of anticipation, Sarah, regarding this strike on Karaj Island, maybe because Americans were talking about it somehow indirectly, but now it happened, and the Iranians should have been ready for such a strike, because they have been, according to reports, they have been targeting oil facilities in the Gulf region, and they know they have also oil facilities, and it's very likely the Iranians have been preparing themselves for such a strike. I don't know how much military presence Iran has and how vulnerable their base there is, and how are the preparations for them to avoid being decimated in such a strike, the preparations there on the ground around the oil facilities. But we know that it is a vital island for Iran's exportation of oil. 90% or even more of Iran's oil is exported from that island in the Persian Gulf, and it's going to be a big blow if the Americans decide to strike against Iranian oil, much more than a blow against the Iranian military on the island. Really, it is going to be a dangerous development, because Iran depends on its oil, mostly on its oil, for its economic living and life, and it's going to be a huge crisis for Iran if that oil is decimated, according to the language of Donald Trump. We know that Donald Trump, from day one of this war, every single day, he talked about having already decimated. He even said in the first few hours of the campaign that Iran's military capabilities were decimated, obliterated. So we don't know how much true or accurate. Whenever he says big words like these, the Iranians have to talk, maybe in the next few days, tell us how much damage has been inflicted on their military presence there, and how much damage could be inflicted on their oil facilities there. But so far, what we have is these very big words from Donald Trump, and we don't know much on the Iranian side of the story yet.
Right, and let's go to John Holman in Washington, D.C. now, because, John, we did hear, obviously, from Trump there also tying this to the Strait of Hormuz.
No, it hit their house.
In this conflict, and he quite clearly said, just reading actually from his Truth Social post, have not wiped out oil infrastructure. Should Iran interfere with free passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will reconsider. So he's quite clearly trying to get some leverage here so that Iran stops attacking ships through the Straits of Hormuz. The military expert that I was talking to said, yeah, this is obviously like a big threat because of the importance of this island. In practical terms, it might be the most important single part of energy infrastructure that Iran possesses. But Iran can also escalate still further. There's still proxy forces that it hasn't fully activated across the region. So it depends whether this is something that's a really well-considered move from the Trump administration. It is being reported that it's something that has been thought of before this point in the process of this conflict, or whether it's something that's just being put out there to see what happens next. But first of all, I think, as Mohammed is saying, we've got to get this confirmed as well, that what President Trump is saying is correct, that all of the military infrastructure on that island has been knocked out.